So last Tuesday we did a video on this stuff, the 7.62 Securite. We went over just the cartridge and all that, but one thing we did not go over was just exactly how accurate is this stuff. So I won't go too much into this cartridge right now because, as mentioned, we have a video already going over it, which I highly suggest you watch. But before we go forward, I would like to mention what this cartridge was intended for, and that was, well, it's debatable if it was for riot control because this stuff, from what I was reading, again, a lot of these aren't the best of sources, but this was hard information to find. But from what I was reading, this stuff is actually fairly potent at up to 10 yards. To the point where, it can do a lot more than just deter the threat, or, well, I guess it will deter the threat, but it can do a lot more than just, injure someone. This stuff actually seems like it'd be quite lethal at close ranges like that, which of course doesn't, disclude it from being riot ammo, but I kind of debate if this stuff really was used for riot control. But one thing that it very, very likely was used for was as a short-range practice ammunition. And even though the riot control stuff is debatable, that did seem like the one, thing that I was reading about where it seemed like everything was kind of on point. And, well, I figured this stuff is made for at least short-range practice. Let's see exactly how accurate this is. So the way we're going to do this is we are going to first set a target at 11 yards, a real close distance. Then we're going to jump with our target out to 50 yards. Now, if we start missing, we'll backtrack a little bit to the 25-yard mark, and so on and so forth. We'll jump from 50 to 100 and all of that. I don't know that it's going to go up that far, but we'll see. Anyways, with all that talking out of the way, I say it's high time to go hit up the range. Alright, so we're going to be using my set-me rifle for this, and a fun fact about this ammo, aside from it not having any recoil, it also doesn't cycle the bolt, turning my set-me into a bolt action. Now, one thing I did not mention is, per our test, we will be doing, just 3-shot groups, and initially on this one, I aimed at the waist. I don't know why I did that. I think it's because I do that at longer distances, but off camera, I actually fired 3 more shots and was aiming at the center X on the chest. Which, as we can see, actually kind of didn't help with consistency because that hole in the bottom is actually 2 holes darn near shooting on top of each other. But, anyways, the ammo, it looks to be super accurate, at least at 11 yards, which, I know 11 yards isn't that much for a 7.62 NATO, but for an 8.3 grain plastic bullet, I would say that's quite impressive. Anyways, on to our next target, which has been set at 50 yards, and as mentioned, if we don't end up making our hits, we will of course bring the target back to 25 yards. But also to add to that, if we do make our hits, we'll of course set the target out to 100 yards. I would like to do 75 yards, give or take on how the actual group comes out, but they don't have a 75-yard just a target area out here, so I'd have to go to 100 yards. Alright, so this is our 50-yard target, and I gotta say, I am very impressed. I did not think this was actually going to reach out this far. In fact, I was even thinking, I was like, I ought to just put my target at 25 right now, because I don't think it's going to hit 50, and then, it hit 50, and it hit it pretty darn good. So anyways, we now have our target out at 100 yards, and, I was wrong on the 50-yard one, but I will say, I think this is going to be where the limit's reached. If I'm being quite frank, it might hit the target, but I think we're going to see some very scattered groupings. Alright, so yeah, it would appear that 100 might not be the, definite farthest range of stuff can reach, but it definitely can't hit at 100. As mentioned, I would love to test at 75, but there's no range marker for 75 at this range. But yeah, it didn't even hit it. To be quite frank, though, I'm almost wondering if it did hit it, and it's the projectile had lost, the energy to really do anything to the cardboard. Kind of think like if you shoot an airsoft gun at a cardboard target at certain distances, it's eventually not going to do anything. I'm almost wondering if that happened because it was fairly accurate at 50 yards. I was saying I don't think it's going to hit the target, but thinking about it now, I think it really should have. Scattered groups for sure, but I think it is kind of odd that we don't really have any type of bullet hole. And if you see that one in the top right on the cardboard, I'm confident it's not from this plastic ammo. I'm pretty sure it was already there. Alright, so before we go, we have some important things to bring up in regards to how the cartridge performed both during shooting and, after shooting. And the first thing that I want to bring up is on that 50-yard target, you may have noticed that the bullet holes looked, a little bit smaller. Now, I was watching this with a scope as I was shooting it, so I know for darn sure it wasn't just, someone else shooting my target, unless they waited for me to shoot each time. But, yeah, I was watching as I was shooting, so I know those are from, the 7.62 Securites. But again, they were definitely smaller, and had I not been watching, I would have again assumed someone shot my target. So I'm almost wondering, with that being said, if 50 yards really was starting to be about the max range you can actually use this stuff at. Because what I imagine happened is only a portion of the bullet actually, struck the cardboard, then bounced out. Again, I didn't really think about this until like right now, but yeah, I think that we may have been actually seeing the furthest extent of the cartridge's range. Again, it would have been cool to test out at 75. Maybe we would have seen more dimpling on there, a little bit less of extreme of a hold, but we couldn't unfortunately do that. But yeah, I thought that was just a neat little thing that I didn't really kind of think about until now. Anyways, the next thing that I did notice, and this shouldn't be at all surprising, but I figured we're testing the ammo out, I might as well bring up everything I noticed about it, is on the Setney you have a fluted chamber, and of course it did not raise the flutes, not at all. That being said though, the primers, for whatever reason, it doesn't look as bad as on camera as it does like in real life, but primers are kind of like overpressured. I might have actually picked, so there were some cases that were fine, but I only kept 2 of them. But it didn't seem like the primers were kind of bulging out. That was one thing I noticed, but I actually, now that I look at these casings, I don't think these were the ones that had it, so I think I might have actually thrown those out. Now anyways, the last thing that I want to bring up is, supposedly this ammunition has a problem with leaving a lot of plastic residue in the barrel and all that. Now we only shot 15 rounds today, so maybe that's just the fact we didn't shoot that much. But yeah, I didn't notice any plastic residue in the barrel. I'm still going to run some solvents through there just in case. But yeah, I only fired 15 rounds though, so I think if you end up picking this stuff up and shooting a lot of it, I would definitely be a little bit careful with going from this stuff to going to regular copper lead bullets. But yeah, in my own gun, looking at it, I have not noticed any plastic fouling, which by the way, I said that was my last point, but I want to end off with, now this ammo was quite expensive, $7.50 a box. I wouldn't pay for this unless I was just testing it out of curiosity. But if you ever find this stuff, fairly cheap, and you don't mind doing a little bit of, plastic cleaning with your rifle, I think this stuff's actually, a great option. Again, if you can find it cheap, I mean, this is kind of borders on, like, being able to buy a regular 7.62 NATO. But this actually is some pretty nice stuff to shoot. Like, if you don't mind your gun being turned to a bolt action, assuming it's not a bolt action already. Yeah, this is definitely some very fun plinking ammo. If you find this for a good deal, and as mentioned, you don't mind cleaning out the plastic in the barrel, I would say definitely grab you quite a few boxes of this stuff. I know I'll be keeping an eye out for it. But anyways, I think that is going to do it for this accuracy testing video of the 7.62 Securite. I hope you all enjoyed the video as much as I especially enjoyed making this one, and I will see y'all next time.